Let me ask you something. How often do you think, I'll be happy when? When things finally slow down, when life makes more sense, when I become a better version of myself. What if happiness was never meant to be chased? Most people wake up every day with a quiet expectation that happiness should eventually show up. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. And without realizing it, they build their entire life around that idea. They tolerate jobs they hate, routines that drain them, relationships that don't feel right, all because they believe happiness is waiting at the end of the road. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Happiness doesn't wait. It doesn't sit at the finish line. And it doesn't reward patience the way we think it does. Happiness is not a goal. It's a byproduct of well-lived days. There was a long-term study conducted by Harvard that followed people for over 75 years, tracking their careers, health, relationships, habits, and emotional well-being. What they found surprised a lot of people. Happiness wasn't predicted by wealth, fame, intelligence, or even success in the traditional sense. It was predicted by how people lived their daily lives, especially the quality of their habits, relationships, and sense of meaning. In other words, happiness wasn't something they chased. It was something that emerged naturally when their days were aligned with who they were. Another experiment in psychology showed that people who focused directly on trying to be happy often reported lower levels of happiness over time. Why? Because constantly measuring your happiness makes you hyper-aware of what's missing. It turns life into a constant evaluation. Am I happy now? Why not? What's wrong with this moment? And that pressure quietly kills joy. But when people focused instead on small, meaningful actions, progress, contribution, and personal integrity, happiness increased as a side effect. Think about it. The moments in your life when you felt genuinely good about yourself were probably not moments when everything was perfect. They were moments when you showed up, when you did something hard, when you stayed true to yourself, when you followed through. That feeling of quiet satisfaction at the end of the day isn't excitement, it's alignment. And alignment is one of the deepest sources of happiness we have. A well-lived day doesn't mean you were productive every minute. It doesn't mean you felt good all day. It means you didn't abandon yourself. You didn't ignore what mattered just to be comfortable. You didn't trade long-term self-respect for short-term relief. Even one small choice in the right direction can turn an ordinary day into a well-lived one. There's a concept in behavioral science called identity-based habits. It suggests that long-term change doesn't come from goals, but from repeated actions that reinforce who you believe you are. When you act in ways that align with your values, your brain releases dopamine, not because you reached a goal, but because you behaved consistently with your identity. That chemical reward is subtle, but powerful. Over time, it creates a sense of inner stability. And that stability often feels like happiness. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting to feel motivated before acting. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Discipline and consistency, on the other hand, build trust with yourself. And self-trust is another hidden pillar of happiness. When you know you'll show up for yourself, life feels safer, less chaotic, less heavy. There was also a study that showed people who tracked small daily wins, things as simple as finishing a task, taking a walk, or having a meaningful conversation, reported significantly higher life satisfaction after just a few weeks. Nothing dramatic changed in their lives. Their circumstances stayed the same. What changed was their relationship with their days. They started to see their lives not as something to escape, but something to participate in. And participation is key. Happiness doesn't come from observing your life from the outside. It comes from engaging with it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's imperfect. Especially then. A lot of people think happiness will arrive when life becomes easier. But in reality, happiness often appears when life becomes clearer. When you know what matters to you, and you act accordingly. Clarity reduces internal conflict, and internal conflict is one of the biggest drains on emotional well-being. Here's a simple but powerful shift. Stop asking yourself if you're happy, and start asking if you lived today in a way you respect. That question changes everything, because you can answer it honestly, even on bad days, even on stressful days, even on days where nothing goes according to plan. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need a flawless mindset. You don't need constant positivity. What you need is consistency in small, meaningful actions. One thing you didn't avoid. One thing you followed through on. One moment you were fully present instead of distracted. Neuroscience shows that our brains are wired to find meaning in progress, not in comfort. That's why scrolling endlessly feels empty, even though it's easy. And why effort, though uncomfortable, often leaves us feeling better afterward. Your brain rewards movement toward something meaningful. That reward is subtle, but it accumulates. Over time, well-lived days stack up. And when they do, happiness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock loudly. It shows up quietly, as calm, as confidence, as a sense that your life makes sense to you, even if it's not perfect. This is why chasing happiness directly rarely works, because happiness isn't something you can grab. It's something that emerges when you stop running from your life and start showing up for it. So if you want to feel happier, don't design a perfect future. Design better days. Decide how you want to live today. Decide what kind of person you want to be when no one is watching. Decide what you won't avoid anymore. Happiness will follow. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through alignment, integrity, and presence. And if this video resonated with you, if this way of thinking made you pause for a moment, and if you'd like to see more content like this about mindset, habits, and living better days, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more. More videos like this are coming.